Lately, there's been a lot of talk about the quality of the Fate franchise with the release of Fate Apocrypha. The A1 Pictures adaptation of this spin-off light novel has been met with mixed reception from the anime community, which in turn has spurred conversation about the Fate franchise's quality as a whole. This led me to start thinking about how the spin-offs and derivative works of Fate Stay Night don't capture the essence of what made me fall in love with the original visual novel when I read it years ago. The reason the Fate Stay Night visual novel captivated me was not for the readily apparent reasons so many fans cite, like historic figures fighting in modern day, or the entire grandiose concept of the Holy Grail War, and the crazy rules and implications that come with that, or even a waifu King Arthur. While that stuff is neat, the reason I got so invested into Fate Stay Night was its portrayal and analysis of the concept of a hero in the modern day. This idea of someone believing in justice and heroism, the idea of someone desperately wanting to save people and how this affects their life and how they go about trying to accomplish their goals. This is explored in Fate Stay Night through the main character Emiya Shiro. For all Fate Stay Night's hype shonen-esque moments and its cool characters and awesome abilities and magic, to me, the selling point has always been its deep introspection and exploration of Emiya Shiro's character, and his ideals of becoming a hero of justice. Fate Stay Night's take on Shiro wanting and trying to become a hero paints an incredibly interesting picture, as someone who wants this is not normal. Shiro is a fundamentally broken person. Due to growing up with shonen manga and anime, my interests and values were somewhat shaped by them. I always idealized heroic-type figures and the idea of helping people. Fate Stay Night provided a more nuanced take on this classic idea. Reading it in my late teens when my tastes were starting to shift was the perfect time for me. Stay Night kind of feels like it was meant to be read by people who grew up with shonen manga such as myself, as it provided these concepts I grew up with and presented them in a cool, unique fashion. Fate Zero does a great job of capturing what made Fate Stay Night so great to me. Fate Zero does enough of its own thing with an older, more experienced ensemble cast, and portrays more of a gritty Holy Grail War as opposed to Stay Night, but it's still tied to Stay Night narratively by being a prequel, as it takes place in the same city, with some familiar faces from Fate Stay Night, and it's tied somewhat thematically through Emiya Kiritsugu, the adopted father of Emiya Shiro. Fate Zero, like Fate Stay Night, plays with the concept of heroism through its main character. Like Shiro after him, Kiritsugu wishes to be a hero of justice, and ultimately he wishes to save the world. At a glance, this may seem like a simple copy of Stay Night, but due to Kiritsugu's past, he has a much more pragmatic and utilitarian worldview than Shiro. Kiritsugu has his justice down to a science, always choosing the needs of the many over the needs of the few. Kiritsugu will always take the path with the least amount of lives lost, even if it leads to casualties along the way. His ideals are much more weathered and rigid, providing an interesting contrast to Shiro's more idealistic idea of a hero. Fate Zero took the core concept of a hero of justice from Stay Night and applied it in a different way through Kiritsugu, making the prequel feel right at home by presenting this idea in a different light, allowing Fate Zero to feel cohesive in regards to Stay Night on a narrative and thematic level. Most other Fate spin-offs feel so drastically different to me. Lots of them take place in alternate settings like Fate Extra, Fate Grand Order, and Fate Apocrypha, and choose to focus on esoteric Nasuverse lore, expanding upon the more verbose nature of Stay Night and Zero. They usually introduce some cool-looking characters and maybe have some neat throwbacks to Fate Stay Night, but they really do feel like spin-offs, in the sense that the themes and story of the works don't mean as much to me. I appreciated the central concept of heroism and how it was applied to Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero, but most of these spin-offs don't have that. I'm not saying every Fate work must have an introspection of the main character's ideals of heroism, but it was a core theme that was deeply tied to the message that these works were trying to get across. Most Fate spin-offs feel exciting to me at first, but end up feeling boring. It feels like they thrive off the concept of being Fate and hope to be inherently interesting just because they are Fate, and have all the implications that come with that. They throw a bunch of cool-looking characters on the screen and have them fight because that's what Fate Stay Night did, but they kind of forget to flesh out these characters or have the work have thought-provoking or interesting things to say. It feels like a popcorn movie, a lot of flash but not a lot of substance. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that if that's what you're looking for. I was so invested in Fate Stay Night and Zero as these spin-offs came out over the years. I've always been excited at the promise of each new entry, but I couldn't help but feel usually disappointed. Fate Extra was a boring dungeon crawler with a main character who was a plank of wood. The concept of finally getting to be a master and have my own saber was awesome, but the game itself fell flat. The concept of Fate Grand Order is once again interesting. You get to have a team of your favorite servants and be a master, but it turns into gacha hell with a silly plot and an awful anime adaptation. I will admit the Oath Under Snow arc to the Ilya Magic Girl spin-off was actually fire, and my favorite thing to come out of Fate in a while. But surrounding that arc was a bit of a slow grind and kind of feeling like a pedophile for 4 anime seasons and however many manga chapters. I'm not going to talk about Fate Apocrypha Apocrypha extensively as it hasn't finished airing yet, but it seems to be the latest iteration in this trend of Fate spin-offs that copies the formula of what's cool about Fate at face value, but fails to capture what actually makes it interesting. When a series or IP gains widespread success, it's very common to see lots of works pop up that try and emulate the original, but fail to capture what made the original good. It's just frustrating for me because in Fate's case, these derivative works are official spin-offs rather than the usual third-party offshoot. Even though my thoughts on most Fate spin-offs are pretty mixed to negative, I'm still interested in the franchise's future and what it has to offer. After all, Fate helped give us Carnival Phantasm, which is pretty much the greatest thing to ever happen. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on any of these spin-offs or the direction of the Fate franchise in the comments below, and consider sharing this video with someone if you think they'd be interested. And hey, a little while ago I made a video about Emiya Shiro in the O Thunder Snow arc. If you want to see me talk about more Fate-related content, be sure to check it out. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.